The smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I'm a member of the Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union, and I regretted, in a way, to see its defeat before the City Council on Tuesday for its proposal for a branch downtown. I always like it when things can be done according to the proposed owner's plan, and I don't like it when I hear zoning codes, zoning rules, tapping against, knocking down, shooting down a plan. But the credit union of which I'm a member had a scheme to build a building and seems to have disregarded entirely the zone-based, the form-based code zoning rules that apply to many parts of Chattanooga in the hopes of reviving Chattanooga and making it more attractive and more livable. Now, I'm not a fan of zoning at all. I think it's illegal and unconstitutional. But and a reform like the one we've had now for 2 years in Chattanooga, form-based coding, is expecting clean water from a dirty pipe. It's clean for a while, perhaps, but it'll get dirty eventually, and you'll get sickened by it eventually, and it will be mort main. That means French for dead hand. It will be dead hand on the marketplace, and it will have its own evil effects 40 and 50 years out, as we've had today in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, the evil effects of the former scheme of extra owner control of private property in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. And I say this sort of to preface the point that I want to get to about a writer and a researcher named Joe Minnicozi. I've encountered him in listening to strongtowns.org podcasts, which I would recommend for you, and that's strongtowns.org podcast. It's a great website. And what Joe has done is make it a case for essentially the fruits of form-based coding, which is multi-use. The Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union plan was shot down because it had one building with one user on a long rectangular lot, I think on 10th Street, or I'm not 20th Street or something like that, off of Market. And I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly where it is. And it is an idea that is not going to happen. But the idea of multi-use is very, very good, as Joe proposes, and it's mentioned all around. There's a Forbes article about what he's offering in the way of reviewing which is better, multi-use or single use. Now, let me ask you a question. You, my listener here at the David Toulis Show at 92.7 FM, which is more prosperous? Which measured by, well, let's say we can measure the prosperity by the theft of the income, the theft of the cash flow by taxation. We'll call it theft because it is a kind of taking that we all kind of submit to, measured by tax revenue. Okay, let's measure these two distinct types of property. Which has more tax creation, more tax value? A large Walmart shopping center with a new building, or a block downtown with many businesses, little retail shops, flower shops, law firms, accounting businesses, web development businesses, and the like, service companies, all together in various buildings downtown. Which is more prosperous? Well, ordinarily we'd say, well, obviously the town wants to have the big Walmart come in, and the developer that builds that's a lot more money. That's big money all at once, right? Well, maybe, but if you have a section of downtown, Joe Minnicozi proposes weigh the revenue to the city in the skimming of taxation, weigh that revenue per acre. Okay, that's the clincher for Joe Minnicozi's argument at Urban 3. That's his design firm. And you'll find that the revenue per acre is 1,000% greater, 1,000% greater when you have the honeycomb multi-use buildings in existing buildings or new buildings of the kind proposed by form-based coding. There's a mention of this in a recent article in Forbes. And so what he's doing is breaking down the economic impact of land on a per acre basis, and that allows for apples to apples comparisons. Okay, so you have a 6-story mixed use building proposed here, a combination of residential and commercial, versus a single massive retail store that is maybe near the edge of town. Okay, so he takes the city of Asheville, where Minnicozi is based, and has 83,000 people. And that city has 1,000% greater return on downtown mixed-use development projects of the kind that seems to have been ignored by the credit unions, developers, and architects, which again is a combination of residential and commercial. 1,000% greater return on downtown mixed-use development projects on a per acre basis. Again, that's the key measure, the key way that the money is measured, the prosperity is measured per acre basis, compared to when ground is broken by the bulldozing crew and near the city limit, like let's say out in Hickson, and a shop, the Walford's family builds a shopping center for Walmart. So that there's Walmart has a big check, right? There's a constant money flow from Walmart, big numbers, but taken on a per acre basis, it is 10 times more valuable. And this is David Toulis, and you're calling the number, and it's 800-8949. Caller, what's on your mind?
Hey, this is Rachel calling about your federal.
And Rachel is, we'll talk to her later. Put it a different way, a typical mixed-use acre of downtown Asheville yields $150,000 more in annual tax revenue to the local government than an acre of strip malls or big box stores. And these are points that are in favor of small business, okay? Small business and local economy, of the kind that we need to have more of, the kind that I, David Toulis, have been thinking about and writing about for some time. The name is David Toulis, and you're here at 92.7 FM. And Strong Towns has a great little piece that is written by, I wanted to make mention of this to you because a friend of mine forwarded this to me, one of our Panera Posse regulars. It's a piece by Quint Studer, who lives in Pensacola, Florida, and is the author of a book called Building a Vibrant Community, How Citizen-Powered Change is Reshaping America. And again, the name is Quint Studer, and the book is Building a Vibrant Community, How Citizen-Powered Change is Reshaping America. And what we want to have happen is these writers at strongtowns.org discuss, how do we have people coming back to the center of Chattanooga? Now, I know the mayor and city organizers and the important people think that's important, and they're right. How do we keep people here? Why are people leaving Chattanooga? Why are not enough? We could propose not staying here. What makes people say I'm leaving and I'm not coming back? How do we revitalize half dead areas, whether it's downtown or along the strip here in East Ridge? There are many empty retail buildings, and how does the city council in this town revitalize them? How do they make them attractive? Now, I'd say that part of the answer, as the Strong Towns writers will suggest, is that zoning rules and regulations make it just impossible to get to buying something to revive it. And what we need to have in Red Bank and Saudi Daisy and East Ridge and Chattanooga are tax-free zones. And I know Helen Burns Sharp complains about tax breaks for big business, and she's right to do that, because she points out, as we noted the other day at Nuganomics.com, that these breaks don't go to small shops, right? They only go to the big ones. Well, the small ones, as Minnicozi suggests, are so much more profitable and so much more prosperous to the owners and to the city at large. Again, the city, if we're measuring its income through taxation, it gets a lot more money from many small providers grouped together in mixed-use developments than the large players that you would think get all the attention for their large monthly stipends to the cities. There are things to think about small business. Small businesses provide 2 out of every 3 new net jobs since 2014. And these are, not just grunt jobs, but they're said to be meaningful jobs. We tend to feel better about our work when we have close connections with our bosses and coworkers, and can play an integral role in a company's future. Again, that's when you're in a small business. That's what happens with your role as an employee or an associate or an investor. Local small businesses keep money in the economy. When citizens buy from a small business, the money goes to pay for a local employee who then does what? Well, he spends his money locally, local restaurants, local foods. There's a chain reaction. And that's called, I think that's called the premium. That's not the word I'm thinking of now. It's been a while since I looked at the civic forum studies. This is David Toulis and Collier Live. What's on your mind?
Dave, I'm going to give you another perspective. I know everybody likes to beat up on big business, and I've got a small business. You have a small business. But this is supply and demand and competitiveness. And I'm sure they're referring to Amazon and UPS and Volkswagen. But to lure them in, sometimes you have to give them tax breaks. The Chinese are smart. You can start your own business in China for 10 years. There's no taxes. So if you're competing against Georgia and other states, that's one of the measures to be competitive, where you say, we have a piece of land here, we'll work it out through legislation, and we're going to defer the taxes because we know eventually what we will get. And remember, these companies are investing sometimes billions of dollars with a B in the community. So the taxes will be gotten through the people that are working as they buy goods and services, and also through their paychecks. So I don't think we can be short-sighted on this and just try to whip that big corporate giant who may go to Georgia, and we need to convince them to stay here in Tennessee.
I agree.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. We're not beating up here on big business. We're not doing that. What we're saying is, what I'm saying here on the David Toulis Show is that the small shops, especially if they're all huddled together in downtowns where people gather, where hopefully there is this walkability, invitational factor that makes cities places that you own, right? If you have a certain area of downtown where you always go on, let's say Friday evening for a coffee with your wife, maybe go out to eat with your children, or have a business meeting, a Wednesday evening business meeting if you're not going to church, and you have a favorite place. That place, you end up owning it. And Jane Jacobs, in her classic book, it's a very free market oriented book, and it's I'm going to misquote the name, so forgive me, but it's The Decline and Rise of Great American Cities. I think that's close to the name, 1963, I believe. Has just lyrical passages that describe how a district where people may not know each other personally is owned by the people who are there. And there's this sense of belonging there because you recognize almost everybody there, even though you may not know them. And even though you maybe wouldn't want to know them, but you are there regular. You're a regular, right? You do business there. You have your little drugstore where you get your necessaries, little shops that you go into on the way from your car to your apartment. And that is what is in view in form-based coding, even though I would say at the root of form-based coding, there's the great error of interposition against private ownership. In other words, a state-based progressive claim against private ownership, to which I object, okay? And you should too. But we can still see, nonetheless, in what we have in Chattanooga, here at 800-8949, 800-8949, we have a benefit in that theme that and the city council on Tuesday, I would say commendably supported the scheme, right? And it was argued that if you start making exceptions and exemptions right away, those will control other applications downstream, and you're going to be bound by the precedent of letting Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union, highly retail business, very, very people-oriented business with a lot of traffic every day. You'll have them setting the exceptions, and local businesses, small businesses support local charities. A big company can't do that. A big company can make a show of supporting, a big obvious charity perhaps, but a local owner with a small business with a local crew is going to be much more connected to local philanthropies that are out of view of the corporate suite, even the local corporate division of a big business that's making decisions about charitable donations. Other times, they're caring citizens who coach Little League teams or encourage employees to volunteer at the animal shelter. Either way, the owners of local businesses are more likely to be invested in the community, Quint Studer says, and motivated to give time and resources to make it better. And small local businesses, again, which are 1,000% more prosperous than big ones per acre, right? As measured per acre, a multitude of small shops and services, law firms, accounting firms, service outfits, are insurance sales offices and the like. They're all more prosperous to the city as a whole and generate 1,000% greater tax receipts than an acre developed by a sprawling corporate giant whose buildings, by the way, I'm trying to remember where I read this or heard this, probably at strongtowns.org. Their buildings are designed to last 15 years. They're not long-term people here. They're not long-term entities. They come and they go. They mine an area for income and then they close and move on. Look at in the West how many Walmarts were sold off and bought to become concentration camps. Just think about that. Now, small businesses reflect and amplify the culture of the community. He says locally owned restaurants are a perfect example. They don't have to buy food from a preset menu and prepare it in standardized ways, right? If you have a corporate owner, it has to be standardized, and you're not going to make decisions to favor a local vegetable plot owner, or a local farmer, or a local gardener. Maybe it's just a gardener who supplies some of your veggies. You can't make decisions like that because you've got the rules to follow, right? Small business owners are smart. They're entrepreneurial. They're influential people. They solve problems. And he's mentioning Quint's mentioning a writer, a man named Jim Clifton, and this man wrote a book called The Coming Jobs War. And there's a key word that comes out of that book, and it's tribal leaders. So the people who are small business owners are tribal leaders. They're not in office. They're not on a payroll of influential groups or commissions created by a city council or the mayor's office, but they give their time and their energy and money to civic and nonprofit organizations, and they get things done. Again, small owners, and there's in small business, they are the lifeblood, and they can be the lifeblood of moribund cities such as Red Bank. Red Bank is moribund and has many things for it, but it has some serious things against it. The number is 800-8949, 800-894. Now, we're going to talk today about one thing that's really gotten my attention is the Chatty Wagon story. 3 young entrepreneurs are creating a free ride service downtown. Now, the question is, the question that I'm going to ask is that business involved in transportation? and exactly when I read that story, that came to my mind. It was at nougat.com initially from Chloe Morrison, one of the editors down there at nougat.com. And that question came to mind. And when I brought it up when I called Aaron and said, "Hey, how about coming on the show to talk about your business?" He said, "Well, this is something that's come up." And I was, in a way, I was sad to hear about his distress vis-a-vis the city attorney's office and Keith Reisman, the city attorney designee for this issue, right? This controversy. Volkswagen is introducing a new apprenticeship program. And looking here at Alina Hunter-Grau's story at nougat.com, and there's a manager there named Ilker Subasi who says that there are 600,000 open or unfilled manufacturing jobs in the U.S. That's a number I had not seen before, and there are not actually enough skilled workers that, or I should say, who can do that specific job. This is a technical training assistant manager at VW holding a press conference yesterday. So there's a new course being opened up for apprenticeship. It's on robotics, or no, not robotics, but robotronics, and that apparently will be replacing, according to nougat.com, Volkswagen's automation mechatronics program, and it's a 2 years robotronics curriculum, and that will cover topics such as augmented reality, autonomous robots, cybersecurity, big data, and systems integration. The coursework, the story says, is distributed so that 70% of the students' time is working hands-on in the plant here in Chattanooga, and the student will be receiving $14 an hour stipend for the time working in the factory. So there's good news from big business. Now, I do appreciate your tuning into the David Tula Show. There is a story I want to mention a couple of stories about human life. And this one is from lifenews.com, and it's about a new program, a new funding by the federal government, the good people, creating the FDA, creating Chimera. Now, Chimera is a word for a mirage, right? A chimera is an illusion of something that's not really there. It's also a word for monster. Now, when you have genetic recombination, you create what are called chimeras. And so the government is funding experiments that take babies slain by abortion, babies killed in the womb, boys and girls, and their body parts and their organs and their blood and the lifeblood that they have is drained off. Fresh human tissues are required for implantation in severely immune-compromised mice to create chimeric animals that have human immune systems. So they're trying to create in mice human immune systems. David Toulis, Nuga Radio.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Authorities are still looking for 71-year-old Tommy Shannon, who went missing from Ray County on Tuesday. His family says he's diabetic and may have Alzheimer's. He was last seen driving a maroon Ford Taurus with the tag number 2.